In 2001, Blizzard Entertainment began its quest to bring the world of Azeroth to life, complete with dark elves, exotic worlds, and a compelling storyline. Azeroth became the setting for World of Warcraft, which, just in case you've been living under your keyboard for the past decade, is the world's most popular online game, with over 12 million players worldwide who spend on average 3 billion hours logged in every week. In fact, the widespread success of World of Warcraft has left some game designers wondering, can the online lessons of Azeroth be applied to that of the real world? Well, Jane McGonigal of the Institute for the Future certainly believes that she can channel the obsessive focus of gamers to do more than conquer monsters or earn virtual weapons. As the Boston Globe of January 6, 2011 reports, she has created an online game that harnesses the power of gamers to effect change in the real world. Welcome to the virtual world of Urgent Evoke, an online role-playing game that transforms its players into real-world superheroes. As CNN of March 1st, 2011 explains, players participate in an online comic book narrative in which the main character sends out a message about some world harm taking place, including food shortages, water shortages, or poverty. Players then have to, in the real world, do something that meaningfully addresses this kind of crisis, and are then awarded points online relative to how much they did. But what they haven't told you is that Urgent Evoke may affect the future of innovation in Africa. As Evoke's mission statement states, the goal of the social network game is to empower young people across the world, but especially young people in Africa, to come up with creative solutions to the world's most pressing social issues. By understanding the ways in which we create and exchange narratives like these online, we can begin to understand narrative as a fundamental framework for meaningful interaction in our lives, online as well as offline. Thus, it's essential we ask the question, can shared online narratives become an agent for change? The answer lies in Anne Albert Schleun's model, Gamers Telling Stories, published in the August 2010 Convergence Journal. This model is ideal because it discusses what steps an authentic narrative must take to achieve behavioral changes in the reader. So let's first examine Albert Schleun's model, then apply it to Urgent Evoke before looking at some important implications. Our model outlines 3 essential questions that must be answered in order to form an authentic and meaningful group narrative. How is the narrative formed? Why is it created? And what change does the story create? But first, how narratives are formed. Narratives are formed in the intersection of the experience of the reader with the storyline of the game. Thus, the meaning of the story is completed by the world of the reader. We compare our own experiences with those presented in the storyline, and thus a group narrative is born. Second, we can address why narratives are formed in the first place. As our model explains, virtual narratives are not an imitation or representation of something we know, but rather a depiction that provides a better understanding of ourselves and the world around us. As our model further explains, we need the dynamic features of narrative to address the temporality of our existence, as well as to adapt to the fluidity and complexity of a changing world. In other words, we create narratives to better understand ourselves and the world in ways that we never could have in real life. Finally, we can answer the question, what change does the story create? As our model explains, we found that participants in online games felt a higher sense of achievement in online worlds, completed tasks more productively, collaborated and cooperated at unprecedented rates, and even stuck with a problem until it was finished, regardless of initial failure. Ultimately, while we create narratives to better understand ourselves through an alternate reality, the why and the how of the model, it must have more far-reaching and tangible impacts on behavior to truly be considered authentic. Now that we've battled our way through the orcs and goblins of methodology, we can apply our model to the Urgent Evoke video game. First, lead game designer Jane McGonigal states that one of her main objectives for the game is to create real-world superheroes that apply their in-game knowledge to that of the real world. To begin this process, Urgent Evoke first requires players to tell the story of their superhero's secret identity. This is where they tell basic personal questions about themselves, such as who inspires them or what motivates them. This synthesis provides a process in which the experience of the reader meets the storyline of the game, fulfilling the model's first tenet. Second, our model initially revealed that we better understand ourselves through storytelling. To achieve this, Urgent Evoke broadcasts a new comic book story every week, focusing on different world issues, such as food security, urban resilience, and empowering women. Players then have 10 days to come up with creative solutions to the problems presented in the story, which are reviewed and rated. The most promising player suggestions are recognized with superpowers, or skills and abilities the games consider you will need to truly change the world, such as vision, resourcefulness, and sustainability. This process reveals that Urgent Evoke fulfills our second tenet. Players transform themselves into a superhero, while simultaneously working together to solve the world's most pressing issues in innovative and resourceful ways. Finally, Urgent Evoke not only rewards players for creative solutions, but encourages them to become activists in their own communities. In fact, the highest scoring Evoke superheroes are awarded with scholarships, internships, or even startup money from the World Bank Institute, who partnered with the game's producers to fund the most promising player suggestions. Additionally, as the Globe and Mail of January 11, 2011 explains, communal gaming answers deep human needs for understanding who we are. And because it does, and because many games embody optimism and even altruism, it develops skills transferable to addressing problems in the non-virtual world. So, by promoting change in their local communities, as well as on a global scale, Urgent Evoke achieves behavioral changes in the players, fulfilling our model's third tenet. Now that we've sufficiently leveled up our brains, we can return to our research question. Can shared online narratives become an agent for change? As gamers would say, hells yeah. Video games have proven to teach and cultivate skills applicable to the real world, meaning that online games may one day be harnessed into a powerful agent for change. This analysis draws two implications on social and rhetorical scales. First, Urgent Evoke is ultimately aimed at young people in Africa. Unfortunately, as the Online Journalism Review of January 1st, 2011 reveals, digital infrastructure within Africa is extremely limited, with fewer than 6% of the entire population even having access to the internet, compared to the United States, 74%. The very realities of the world that we are trying to change are preventing access to the game in the first place. Thus, the overall goal and therefore impact of Urgent Evoke may currently be impossible to achieve. However, as the reach of the digital age grows and video games become more accessible to developing nations, we may find the stories we tell online are the first step to truly changing the world. Second, Urgent Evoke holds implications for communications research. The Economist of spring 2011 reveals that the advent of internet-enabled cell phones are freeing Africa from the costs and failings of traditional internet connections, and for the first time, making it affordable for Africans to connect to the world around them, and more crucially, to each other. This important step allows games like Urgent Evoke to connect those with problems directly to those with solutions, instead of having someone else speak for them. Computer-mediated communication, even through the use of online comic book stories, have the power to motivate us, compel us, and transfix us in a way unlike anything we've created before. By transforming that obsessive power into social activism, Urgent Evoke is changing our own definitions of digital communication. Economist Edward Castronova once said, "We are witnessing what amounts to no less than a global mass exodus to virtual worlds and online gaming environments." And after examining Anne Albert Schlund's model, applying it to Urgent Evoke, and looking at potential implications, we can find the stories we tell online very much influence our understanding of the world around us. Video games may one day be harnessed into a powerful agent for change, and hopefully, soon enough, gamers will hear a new Call of Duty.